Welcome back to Cityline. With me, I have a brand new executive director to an organization that we all know and love. I'm talking about Workforce Central. They do an amazing job here in our city. Please join me in welcoming Katie Condit. She is their brand new executive director. Hello, Miss Katie.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It is wonderful to have you on Cityline. Helen McGovern-Pallant told us about you a couple of months ago, and I know that you have been getting your feet wet and getting yourself comfortable in this city and in this role. So I'm so thankful that we get to finally meet face to face. Katie, first off, what are your impressions of the city so far?
What a collaborative, get to work, support our community sort of manifesto that this city and Pierce County, I think as a whole, is driven by. I have been welcomed with open arms from leaders and community members across sectors who are so committed to put their own agendas aside to recovering from this pandemic. It has been an incredible welcome, an incredible opportunity for connection, and you don't see that everywhere. That ability to set ego aside, set individual agenda aside, and work on behalf of the community, and that is just so tangible in Pierce County. So it was the right move, and I'm grateful to be welcomed into it.
Well, it sounds like that you have assessed us so beautifully, like you've been living here forever, because that is exactly what the grit city is. So Katie, what inspired you to apply for the executive director position for Workforce Central?
You know, as I was thinking about next steps in my own career and my life's journey, there is no time like now for workforce development. And that just continued to become more and more apparent to me as I was exploring. You know, I have had a heart for Pierce County for a number of decades. I lived here in the early aughts, and so was strategically looking at what might come available to be of service to this community. And you know, there is no other way we will recover and grow from this pandemic if we are not thinking cradle to career. And workforce development does that. It is not focused on a specific population or age range or skill set. It is really thinking about the community as a whole, directly in connection to economic development and people thriving. And so that cradle to career lens, the idea of serving young people, but also their parents and family members, was really compelling for all of the reasons I mentioned. And so that's at the core of what brought me into this role.
I love the phrase that you used, cradle to career. It is one of my favorite phrases in the circles that you and I are in. And I want a black t-shirt that says cradle to career across it in white. Don't you think? We're going to have to work on that, Katie?
It's a plan.
So there is a program called Recovery Corps. How did it come about, and who does it serve?
Thanks for asking. We are thrilled to be a part of the Recovery Corps partnership. You know, since March 1st, we've had over 23,000 young people under the age of 24 file for unemployment in this pandemic. And so the Recovery Corps is really designed to provide meaningful work experience for those young people in roles that specifically help contribute to economic recovery. This really started as a vision from the Pierce County Council, who wanted to invest wages back into the community for young people while providing that meaningful work experience. And so we got together with the county and then Goodwill, who works really closely onboarding and recruiting young people to place them into meaningful work. And so this really was born out of the vision of Pierce County, but has come together to be a very quick moving, incredible partnership that is focused on those young people who are seeking meaningful wage employment in the current moment.
Katie, what are you learning about how the pandemic has affected or impacted work experience opportunities for young people?
What we know from the recession in '08, and this is no different in some ways, and in many ways it is, but when unemployment spikes, young people are adversely impacted because the market is flooded then with talent and experience that's far beyond the entry-level skills that young people bring to the workforce in many cases. And so they have a harder time finding meaningful work experience. And, one of the unique things we're learning through this Recovery Corps process is that even if employers have positions or opportunities available, there's some extra caution in bringing on young people just based on the risk of COVID exposure. And so that's an added layer to what a recession might have looked like in the past. And then, last I'll share that young people, and often those furthest from opportunity in communities deeply impacted by poverty, are busy looking out for their siblings in ways they've never had to, while also figuring out online schooling in this new world, which leaves less time to think about and commit to their own work experiences. So young people have a lot on their plates right now.
Boy, they sure do. I have to tell you, there's never been a time when young people have, in my opinion or in my heart, garnered such respect for what they are going through. I never had to go through this in the 1980s. And this is character building, but also soul breaking at times. Katie, how many young people and businesses are involved in the Recovery Corps program?
It has been, and this is just one of the examples of what I mentioned earlier in terms of Pierce County coming together, however adversely impacted businesses are. In the course of 6 weeks, we've had over 45 businesses and employers step up to host young people at their work sites in a variety of roles. And currently we have upwards of 80 young people, again, within the last 6 to 8 weeks, who are currently now in paid work experiences or very far into the enrollment process. And so we have employers from the nonprofit sector, from private sector. We are working with a number of childcare providers and providers of tutoring for young people to get additional help into centers that need it. And so this has been an incredible lift, and it is really based in this public-private partnership. And that's indicative of who Pierce County is.
That's amazing. 80 individuals. I mean, that to calculate the ripple effect of that, Katie, in terms of income, in terms of giving back services to the public, but also in terms of keeping businesses alive, it's like a triple win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
When we think about Workforce and how they support an initiative focused on basic education for adults. And that sentence alone is so amazing. What is the vision behind that work?
So the Basic Education for Adults initiative is a really robust partnership with our local colleges that is focused on supporting capacity for a navigation that assists adults with outreach for either GED or completing their high school diploma. It was a pilot initiative that began in partnership with the four colleges in Pierce County, as well as a number of community organizations in April of 2019. And it really began to assess how shared supports or shared navigation support amongst those colleges might impact an increase enrollment in basic education. So, 18% of Pierce County residents without a diploma are in poverty today versus 10% of residents who have a diploma or a GED. So there is a significant gap in terms of opportunities for meaningful work and thriving for those who weren't able to attain their basic education. And so the idea is, what is shared navigation support? And in the last year and a half, over 160 individuals have been successfully connected to and enrolled in basic education through this single navigator position. And what I think is most incredible about the model is it is our colleges and community organizations saying, we're going to set aside competition. We are going to co-invest in a navigator that will help individuals, customer focused, get to the best institution, the best place based on their choice and needs. And so in examining that model, all partners have said what an impact this has had.
Wow. So 160, that number is incredible to me. If I were to put 160 people in my backyard, which I can't fit, it would be overwhelming. So along with those 160 people, who are the schools and organizations that stepped up and are involved?
So Pierce College, Clover Park Technical College, Tacoma Community College, which is actually where the navigator position is housed, but works on behalf of the partnership, Bates Technical College, Tacoma Community House, as well as other partners in the WorkSource system. So this was really an aligned effort and pretty powerful.
It sounds like it. So what resources, Katie, are available for adults seeking to complete their high school educations or to get a GED?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes the best kept secret, the broad scope of resources that are available through the WorkSource Center, because as we know, there are barriers to completing education and or entering higher education across the board. And so through the WorkSource system, those resources can be anything from education, training, and testing assistance. So for fees, transportation assistance, career coaching, there's funding for things like school supplies, for uniforms, for work attire. The list really goes on. And so, barriers to education and work are not unique to a certain group of individuals. We can all use extra assistance, and there are a myriad of resources available through WorkSource Pierce.
That is incredible. When you were talking, this big neon sign of removing barriers flashed in front of me, and then you just said it. So congratulations, because if there's anything that Pierce County needs to be about right now is removing barriers in terms of education, jobs, perception, and institutional racism. Katie, how is Workforce Central pivoting? I hate to use that word, maybe I'll say nimble, to meet business and job seeker needs in this new work of social distancing and quarantining? It's hard. When you think about when you and I were interviewing years ago, we had our own set of things we did. I used to lay out my outfit night before. Now I have people who talk to me who are saying, I'm terrified, I can't get on the Zoom to make the interview. So how does Workforce Central embrace that?
It's a great question, and we're all facing it. So, now more than ever, it's not surprising that virtual services are central to our model, both for businesses and for job seekers. So on the business side, we've had successful recruitment events through sector-specific focused job fairs, but also a job fest just in the fall that brought over 300 individuals into a virtual space to connect with dozens of employers. So in some ways, virtual opportunities increase access. What's true is that there are many individuals who also don't have easy access, to your point, to virtual space. And so, we've tested and had some success in this model of a drive-through in-person opportunities. And so that's something that in specific neighborhoods has worked really well. And we hope to build on that idea of meeting people where they're at. To your point of reducing barriers, we have to stop waiting for people to come to us. And so that is being baked into our model in this new world. Ultimately, we're shifting towards a deep and rigorous equity lens, examining and focusing on the businesses and also the communities in Pierce County who have been most impacted by this pandemic. So we have neighborhoods who experience far greater levels of poverty, who have been significantly devastated by this pandemic. Communities of color and small businesses owned by people of color are adversely impacted by this pandemic. And so Workforce Central is holding the mirror up and asking questions of our own systems around anti-racism and how we are doubling down to invest equitably. And and there will be more to come there. And I think the last thing I'd share is that we have an incredible effort amongst over 65 community organizations in this region called the Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force. That's facilitated by Tamar Jackson, who's our Director of Community Engagement at Workforce Central. And we have dozens of nonprofits, private businesses, the city, the county is involved, coming together around self-reflection focused on anti-racism and anti-oppression to ask, how can we do this better together? And so that is an incredibly powerful effort, and I anticipate deep impact coming from that over the next year.
Well, we're going to have Tamar on in a couple of weeks here to check in and see what we can do to help that effort. Katie, thank you so much for your time. I make all of our first-time guests promise that they'll come back within 90 days and check in with us. So raise your right hand and promise. All right, there we go. Katie, as the sun is coming into my kitchen window and we're starting to lose all visibility, thank you so very much for being here today, and take care of you and yours.
Thank you. It has been a joy. I appreciate it.
We have much more to come on Cityline, so don't go away. We'll be right back.